Hello, ladies, gentlemen, nerdlings, nerdettes, darkly kings, and the rest of you quite possibly genderless alien species if you prefer. Um, or non-classifiable alien species, perhaps? Anyway, I did a lot of working on Captain Zuriz off camera. A lot off camera, actually. About like 5 hours worth of preparing him for level 50. Because I was weighing a lot of pros and cons and, just kind of actually doing some testing. And I am happy with my results with Captain Zuriz, and I'm going to go forth really quick and cover Captain Zuriz. So we're going to go ahead, log in here, and go over what his abilities are, the new gear I picked up. Now, I spent about 1,000,000 energy credits getting this gear for my ship. And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I do have 8 plasma beam arrays. Oh, that's the thing I forgot to mention. The first thing I did, very first thing I did was take the time to purchase all the tier 5 level 40 ships. So I have the assault cruiser, the patrol escort, and the deep space science vessel. Now, you could buy these for dilithium, and these are the last starships you could buy in-game for dilithium. The rest of the ships, they're either Zen ships, lockbox ships, or ships you earn during special events. And I do highly, I will be playing my tier 5 and my tier 6 ships and talk about the ones I have. I will also play, but I want to play with these ships because a free-to-play player will have these ships. The keyword is they will have these ships. So, what did I do? I got 8 plasma beams, all exactly the same with the CTRH tag, which means they have a higher chance to do a critical, or when they hit that they'll do critical damage. I have a positron deflector. Positron deflectors are the best if you want survivability, and I actually recommend those over other kinds. And this base equipment, this is non-fleet equipment. So I'm going to say that this is non-fleet equipment. All of this equipment just cost me energy credits. And like I said, I spent 1,000,000 energy credits. I bought these hyper impulse engines for full impulse speed, so they're quick to zoom around. I go with plasma integrated warp cores because they have a bonus to the base regeneration rate of power levels, which in this ship is critical, and I'll actually do an STF run and show you why it's very critical. Then we have these resilient shield arrays, and I picked the resilient shield arrays more so than any other kind because the bleed through. Normally, shields let 10% of damage bleed through, so if you get hit with 1,000 damage, 100 will go straight through it and affect your hull. 900 will take away the shield hit points. And when you have the resilient shield array, 95% of the damage is taken by your shields and 5% bleeds through and gets to your hull. So if you're shield tanking, resilient shields are very, very good. Or if you have very great shield regeneration due to bridge officer abilities. Now, I only got 2 devices, both earned through previous missions, the Subspace Field Modulator and the Nimbus Pirate Distress Call. Now, my engineering console choice may seem odd to people, but I have to probably explain it just a little bit. I have EPS flow regulators, which are exactly the same, plus 75% power transfer rate, and plus the 100% from the plasma warp core. That should be 2.5 times faster energy transfer rate. I'm not sure if that's the exact math, but it's just my energy transfer rates will bounce back faster, which I will really need because all these beam arrays with fire at will, they're going to drain my weapon power setting big time. I have the neutronium alloy I actually bought when I was level 40 on Zuriz, so this is still the same, as well as the monotonium alloy. It is both still the same. Now, I could switch out to this paratrinic or ablative because I could. Here as I could, but I'm not going to. Now, the science console I have to talk about. This science console, the exotic particle field exciter, is worth every single energy credit you spend on it. It combines 2 consoles and a special ability. Now, it's the equivalent to a exotic particle generator, not a field exciter, a generator, in which both consoles, like I actually have a copy of it over here. Oh, actually, let me compare. There you go. So the particle generator just gives me 30 Starship exotic particle generator damage. This is for my science ship. It's on my science ship, the Grease. And as you can see at the exotic particle field exciter, it does the exact same thing and more. But you cannot slot more than one of the exotic particle field exciter. So that's the reason why. Now, the exotic particle field exciter also gives a maximum 20% shield capacity. So my shields, they have more capacity. And then whenever my shields are healed through my bridge officer abilities, I get field exciter applied for 15 seconds. And field exciter could only be applied once every 30 seconds. And that gives me plus 10 weapon power. And with all the beams I have, yeah, it's very, very helpful. And then I purchased a Mark 12 very rare emitter, science emitter array. And why do I have the zone chat up? I don't want to listen to zone chat. And then I got 3 tactical plasma infusers. So, not much there. Then I have the Grease. So I'm going to radio the starship really quick. And science vessels, like I said in a previous episode, they get a secondary deflector. It's all the same equipment, except of course 2 less beam arrays as the cruiser. Just I don't have the monotonium alloy. Instead I have the 2 EPS regulators, low regulators. But I have another emitter array, Mark 12 rare though, and I have the particle generator. So this ship basically is it's a science ship, so it's heavy on the science consoles. It's going to do the shields stay up on this ship. They stay up, and the damage is actually quite formidable. And I deal extra damage with my bridge officer abilities, which I'll show when I go into sector space. And then we have the Homeric. I'm having troubles getting this ship outfitted exactly the way I want. I'm still debating if these Chronoton torpedoes are worth it or not. Because I'll explain that when I get into system space. So we're going to go into system space. And let me get into the cruiser. And we are going to go... No, Jor-El Clan, go away. And we're going to go get ourselves into an STF. Because I need to get into one. And show you guys some things. Now, there's something I haven't really showed you guys yet. And for good reason. I think I did. I did a end game preview video way earlier in the series, like way earlier, like around episode 20 or so. And I basically got in my main character and showed you some comment. Am I far enough away to go full impulse yet? Apparently not. Well, that's fine. Now, there we go. I'm going to switch a little bit here, and ta-da! You should see up here, there is now my combat log reader. This combat log reader, yeah, and you could actually see my mouse cursor change from the in-game mouse cursor to my desktop one up here. So this combat log reader is going to tell me how much damage I do. So I just turned the combat log reader on. I'm going to jump into an STF, and I did Crystalline Cataclysm. I did CCA, I'm getting the shards. And you can tell I got some loot. So we're going to actually just jump straight into ISA, which is the benchmark. And we want to filter by space because we're in a spacecraft. So the Conduit Advanced used to be formerly known as Infected Space, and the A is Advanced. So this is the benchmark by all DPS testing is run by. So we're going to queue up. We're going to wait until we get into a mission. Look at Earth. Look at it. Doesn't look particularly great, but it's here. One of my favorite places to hang out because it's far away from Earth Space Dock where everybody might be spamming stuff. Oh, and here we go. So, we're going to find some dilithium. You're going to see my combat tracking up here. And I'll kind of bring the damage tracker out in front and explain some things. But we're going to see how effective a tier 5 level 40 ship can be. And oh, there's tier 6 ships I'm matched with. So this could go really bad or really, 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 really good. We'll see. And this is going to go crazy because we got people that are literally insane DPS. And when I say insane DPS, I really do mean insane DPS. Which means, for me to keep up, I have to actually do this. And you know what? I should have my command for energy on. Because I eat energy like crazy. Look at my ship power levels, how they drop so much because of all the beams I have. But also look how quickly it rises. Attack the nanite generator, please. People do not realize there's a nanite generator right here. Thank you. Thank you, team. And everything just got nuked. So, yeah. I'm doing the least DPS at 15k. So, there's a thing. There's definitely a thing. So I am being really, really, really... I am really trying hard here to keep up with this group, because this is an insane DPS group. So, let me... Oh. Come on, fire at will, come back up, fire at will, thank you. And fire at will, all the beautiful plasma beams go. and try to keep broadside on so that my field of arc overlaps. Oh, it's glorious. But yes, very high DPS. Very high DPS right now. And oh, so much crazy stuff going on right now on screen. It's a cacophony of visuals, sound, and actions on the screen. Oh, this is just insane. And my DPS is going to fall because, well, I'm not going to maintain 15k DPS. I'm just not going to. So we're going to call in the Nimbus Pirate Fleet. Ow. Electron Erosion. My ship has dealt 100,000 Polaron damage. Disturbing the Peace. My ship has dealt 100,000 Disruptor damage. Oh, wow. I am doing 17k DPS, but I know it's because of the team-wide buffs I'm being given. But we'll get to that in a second. We're going to break down what happened this run. Oh, and it's over. It's over. Oh. That was insane. So, I was at the bottom of the DPS list at 18,000. But there's people better than me, with better gear than Zuriz, with specialization trees that haven't done better, that can't do better, because they really do make terrible choices with their bridge officer skills, the captain skills, and equipment. You can see I have no epic gear unless you want to count that Nimbus Pirate Distress Call. That's the only thing I have that's epic, but anybody could get this. Anybody could get it. You know, it's not gated behind crazy equipment upgrading or anything like that. So, why was that so strong? And before that, let me just drag this over and ta-da! Yeah, like I said, I was the bottom at the DPS at 18k. I ended at 18k, which is actually pretty freaking fantastic. So well, let me click on me first. I did a total of 4,133,514 damage. Now, my max hit was Photon Torpedo Salvo 2 from the Nimbus Pirates. That was considered my maximum one hit. The pets I summoned, which was the Nimbus Pirates. And then that whole infected space run took 4 minutes. So that's why I had to kind of shut up, focus on what I was doing, and kind of show you what my damage was. Now, my damage was all plasma beam arrays, practically. So the proc of the plasma weapons, 2.5% chance to afflict plasma damage to my targets. 2.5% chance. And it only stacks once, which is a negative. So if one target has plasma fire and someone else, another ally procs on him or should proc on him, it won't add another stack of plasma fire. It'll just be the one effect until the plasma fire is removed, and then he could be afflicted by another plasma fire. But I did 120,000 damage, 416. with plasma fire. Now, normal plasma array damage, 952,000. Fire at will did, yeah, well, yeah, my plasma beam arrays when they were under the effect of fire at will did 1,242,000. Fire at Will 2 did 1,311,000. And yeah, so that's pretty much the breakdown of my DPS. It was mostly my plasma beam arrays, and that's it. I mean, I summoned pets, quote unquote, which was the pirate distress call. Now, my healing abilities, I healed a total of 41,962 whole hit points. I healed a total of 124,965 of my own shields. Now, Transfer Shield Strength did the bulk of my healing for the shields, of course, as well as Rotate Shield Frequency. The only whole heal I used was Emergency Power to the Auxiliary Structure, or no, Auxiliary Power to the Structural Integrity Field, Mark II. And it doesn't, I mean, I have 2 copies of these slotted. So pretty much every 10 seconds it's up. So every 10 seconds I'm healing, which is really good. See? Every 10 seconds I'm healing. And I also get a damage resistance buff. I highly recommend this over directed energy modulation at the end game because this is actually pretty strong. I mean, I could drop out one of my emergency power abilities. I probably could drop emergency power to shields, possibly. Not going to. And deal more damage. But let's go back to the log real quick. And this log has a lot of things going for it. I'll leave a link to the STO combat log reader. And yeah, that's as much as to say about why I did as much damage as I did. Now, if we want, we could click on the person who actually did the most damage in the group in that session, which was 7. And here's the breakdown of his damage. I do not have Chemosite. I wish I did, but I don't have Chemosite. It's a very expensive to buy. You can only get it from a lockbox, and that kind of sucks. But he also has Fire at Will 3. And he was also using a Refracting Tetrion Cascade. That is a reputation ability that you could unlock. And he also Plasma Explosion. I'm trying to wonder what does Plasma Explosion, because I don't know every ability. I don't know what counter-offensive is, so 2 abilities there I don't know about. And he also used a Biomolecular Shield Generator, Energy Refrequencer, and Enhanced Shield Distribution. So he has abilities that Captain Zuriz definitely does not have. And, Captain Zuriz has very basic abilities. I mean, look, just basics. Basics. This is the core fundamental basics showing it's very strong. So, what about Captain Zuriz's skills? Pretty defensive. 19 into engineering. To be honest, there's some skills I don't really need, but I picked them up anyway. Now, if you notice my tactical route, I have 2 points into everything except projectile weapons. Unless you're going to do a specialized torpedo boat build, and when I say specialized, that's something you have to independently research and learn. There's forum posts about it on Reddit, and you could actually go to Reddit and ask people there about torpedo builds, or just look for previous forum posts that describe torpedo builds and how to make your own torpedo boat. But I do not suggest projectile training because torpedoes have the lowest DPS for generalized combat. I'm not saying, torpedoes suck. They have their uses. I still slot torpedoes on my main character, but overall, unless you're a specialized torpedo boat build, Kitty, off the computer. Thank you, Kitty. Unless you're a specialized torpedo boat build, don't invest into this skill at all. Like zero, zero. Because more than 90% of your damage normally will come from energy weapons. So beam arrays and cannons, turrets, stuff like that. So I have 2 out of 3 points into everything. But coordination protocols is something special in the tactical tree. And when I say special, if you use a carrier that has hangar pets, your pets will gain plus 20% hull capacity and shield capacity for coordination protocols. For defensive coordination, you get plus 20% defense and damage resistance for hangar pets. For offensive coordination, plus 20% accuracy and base damage. Now, this has a secondary effect, which goes out to player characters on your team. And I recommend getting all 3 of these because it's a team-wide buff. For player characters and their summoned pets and allies, they get plus 5% hull capacity and shield capacity. Now, coordination protocols could stack a maximum of 4 times in a team. So even though if all players have it, it's a waste because, the 5th person in the team won't contribute their coordination protocols, it's still awesome to have because there are very few abilities that give you a team-wide buff that is not a activatable ability. Like passive team-wide buffs, there's so few that spending the 3 skill points into offensive coordination protocols, and defensive coordination helps greatly for the team. And a lot of the endgame content is going to be these STFs in space. I mean, a lot of them will be doing these. Now, that said, what about my engineering? Well, hull capacity, I don't have to go 2 out of 3, but I went 2 out of 3 for, maximum survivability, which you will need because it's hard, like, depending on which ships you fly a lot, you may actually want to consider the 3rd point if you fly escorts a lot, because escorts are very squishy, have low hit points. If you're flying cruisers a lot, maybe just 1 point into hull capacity, because cruisers have a lot of hit points. But the point is, all ships could benefit greatly from 2 points into this, 1 for sure. Now we get to the Lieutenant Commander engineering abilities. The Electroplasma System Flow, I recommend a point in that, and a point into improved EPS flow. Like you saw during battle, my power transfer rates were going down. Like if you look at that STF battle, look specifically at my energy power setting, which is here. Now I'll give you a moment so you can rewind. Did you rewind and look at it? If not, no matter. Like in battle, my energy power was going down tremendously, almost to 50, But when you have better power transfer rate, it could regain its maximum power setting very quickly. And it's very important to keep high DPS. Now, full impulse energy shunt is a special skill point that I believe in using this for an all-around build. Now, when you go full impulse, I'm just going to go to full impulse, but not move. 100% of your energy goes into full impulse, which makes you extremely fast getting around the battlefield when you're outside of combat, which means you could get to the next group of enemies faster. And all normally your power levels for everything else goes down to 10. But with full impulse, or 5, my mistake. But with full impulse energy shunt, your subsystems other than engines go only down to 25, which means you have better bounce back from going full impulse. You could, instead of being at 5 power level and then having to climb back up to 100, you start at 25 and then you can bounce back to 100. But look at my power transfer rate. This is without any buffs or anything. I'm going to come off full impulse and look how my energy... See? That's why I have invested into energy power transfer rates. In less than 5 seconds, I was at full operating combat strength in regards to my power setting. That's why I believe in full impulse energy shunt. Because when you have to go to full impulse and you come off it, it shaves like 2 seconds from getting back to maximum combat efficiency. But it's a point you don't have to spend if you feel like this isn't a skill that's important to you. Advanced impulse expertise. I personally chose the 3rd point in this skill because I wanted the bonus turn rate, because its turn rate is slow until you get the specialization in the pilot tree, which helps your turn rate even more. I mean, look, this is my turn rate here. This is my turn rate. I turn very, very slowly, and I have someone following me around, which is interesting. Don't know why. But, as you can see, it takes a fairly wide arc to do a full circle. And the higher your turn rate, the faster I could bring broadsides to bear, or if I was flying an escort, cannons. Now, I got someone following me, sorta. I don't know why. But, yeah. What I was explaining, my skills. My Captain Zuriz skills. But that's why I went with the full 3 points. You don't need the 3rd point, but I definitely recommend 2 out of 3. And then I went with 1 point into hull plating. Now, you could forego the point into full impulse energy shunt. He's trying to get into my camera. Haha, I block. So you could, if you forego the point into full impulse energy shunt and advanced impulse expertise, and you want more damage resistance, putting the point into the energized hull plating and the ablative hull plating is actually pretty good. It's not a bad choice. I don't recommend damage control because it increases the passive regeneration rate of hit points regained. And to be honest, that is why you use bridge officer abilities, 2 copies, to heal yourself. I mean, for crying out loud, my auxiliary to structural integrity was, it's a heal every 10 seconds plus damage resistance. I did not have to use Miracle Worker when I was on that ISO run. Next, at the captain level, I recommend at least 1 point into defensive subsystem tuning and 1 point into offensive subsystem tuning. No ifs, ands, or buts. The more you have subsystem power, the better. Now, getting these 4, though, enhancing the specific subsystem power levels. Shields, auxiliary, weapon, engines. You can see I picked everything except engines. Because engine subsystem energy isn't critical. You could also argue that shield subsystem energy is also not critical. But auxiliary and weapon subsystem are important. The reason why auxiliary is important is that the meta shifts at endgame where you could get a ability where damage increases based on your auxiliary power level. You know, I really have to question why that guy is in my shot. I know, I'll change instance. Change instance. Number 8. I don't know why, but having someone just hover around my little area just makes me, I don't know, not very happy. But we're back at the ESD side of places, but I'll keep explaining things while we make our way to the little quiet place. My quiet place. And oh, that's slow turn rate. And we're just gonna do this because I want to get out to use full impulse as soon as possible. So, continuing on with the explanations, at the admiral level of engineering, I absolutely recommend all of these 3. Warp core potential gives +3 to all subsystem power, and +2 when you get the improved warp core potential. So if you stack the 4.8 just from the defensive and offensive, and then the +5 total, if you get both improved warp cores, that's 9.8 subsystem power to each of your subsystems, which is absolutely fantastic. And then if you invest in these individual ones, you get an extra 3.2. So you get a total of 12. No, 13. You get a total of 13 subsystem power. Now, because of the lack of skill points you will have going pretty heavy for this balanced build for offense and defense, you probably don't have enough for some science skills. So what Zuriz has, you could get away with, but if you want to copy this, you could take away full impulse energy shunt, advanced impulse expertise, and shield subsystem performance. That frees up 3 skill points right there that you could invest into whatever looks interesting for you. And then we're going to go to the science skills. Improve shield restoration, given it improves my transfer shield strength power, and improve shield capacity. Technically, I only needed 1 of this, so you could take a point away here if you want, which means you could have 4 free points. Shields aren't extremely critically important, because if you do what I do with doubling up with the transfer shield strength and emergency power to shields, which I actually may take off, your shields will stay pretty healthy, topped off pretty much. But that's the reason I have the 8 points invested here is for survivability, and when I need to heal, I could heal for a good chunk of hit points or shield. And when we get down to the lieutenant commander, 2 points into drain expertise. I highly believe in drain skills. This ship doesn't have enough science seeding to support using drains. I mean, it does, but I have it, to transfer shield strength instead. But I'm a huge believer in drain expertise. I put 2 points into it. And there's a lot of skills that rely on drain expertise later on. And if you get some console called a plasmonic leech, Having improved drain expertise, well, your drain effectiveness skill basically affects how good the Plasmonic Leech console works. And Plasmonic Leech is an extremely good console, but the only way for Federation players to get it is through a lockbox or on the exchange. So it makes it really difficult for a Federation character to get it, but it's an extremely good console, but you don't need the console. But if you're like in a ship that has enough science seeding where you could run a drain, you should probably run drain for improved power levels. Because we're just going to go to Tavrel here, and we're going to look at what Energy Siphon does. Energy Siphon works off the energy drain, the drain expertise. So it affects that skill. So when Energy Siphon's used, the foe gets minus 20.2 all power settings for 18.9 seconds. After 3 seconds, I then take a plus 20.2 to all my power settings, which is extremely strong to boost your subsystem power. And in some of my tier 6 builds, where I have expanded science seeding, or in my science ships, you will see me run 2 copies of Energy Siphon to keep siphoning energy, keep my subsystem power levels high, keep my damage levels high. I mean, it gets insane. It gets insane. Let's see. Then what else? Oh, yeah, I was talking about my commander skills, or my Captain Zuriz's skills. And then 1 point in exotic particle generator, because I do use gravity well on my science ships, and also other ships that have enough science seeding to use gravity well. So this, increased damage 25%, pretty good. And if you go all 3 points into exotic particle generator, well, it's a 50% increase. But remember, I got those 2 particle exciters. So my total skill bonus is plus 50 right now, but if I put on those 2 particle generators I have, remember one's just a generator and the other one is a particle field exciter, I get plus 60 to my exotic particle generator skill, which means I'm equivalent to having 3 ranks in it because I'd be at a 110 skill total. But this skill is a must-have. All 3 ranks, and I'm going to explain what it does. There's no other skill like this in the game, period. There's no bridge officer ability, there's no piece of ship equipment or gear. That may change later, but as the recording of this video, there is no other way to decrease the penalty of firing weapons at long range at a target. Now, here's exactly what happens without this skill, right? Let's say I was shooting at a target 10 kilometers away. I normally do 1005.1 plasma damage. But since I'm 10 kilometers away, I actually get a 50% damage penalty. So I drop down to 502.55. That's the maximum damage I will do because of the range penalty. Now, all 3 ranks of this skill, the maximum penalty, instead of being minus 50, is now minus 20. So we're going to look at my damage again. With all 3 ranks of this skill, I get 10 kilometers to a target. And I'm exactly sitting at 10 kilometers. I shoot, and instead of doing 502.55, I will do 803.6, I believe. And this is per beam. as long as I could stay at my current power level setting. So 4 beams, from the front will hit for 2,000 damage if I didn't have this skill with 3 ranks. My 4 front beams, when they hit an enemy with the skill, though, will get hit with 8,000. No, not 8,000. 800 times 4. I can't do basic math. So it will do 3,200 damage. It's a significant jump. And that damage adds over time. And end game in STO, the higher DPS you have, the better. Survivability is a good thing to have, but if your DPS is faster than the damage you take, and believe me, in some of these PvE queues, DPS trumps tanking. You want to keep as much DPS as you can, and this is one of the ways you can do it. And it's a great thing to have. I highly recommend the 3 ranks. Skills to absolutely avoid. Shield Mastery. This Shield Mastery skill would be good if it activated, if it wasn't so much crap. I mean, it negates a critical hit, an incoming critical hit from an enemy once per 20 seconds. You get shot at faster than once per 20 seconds. Sometimes you could get hit 20 times in 1 second, depending on the enemies. Yes, there's some crazy PvEs like that. And trust me, Shield Mastery, it's not that great. And plus, it's not normal damage, it's a critical hit. Granted, there's no other skill that negates critical hit damage like this, but it's such a wasted, poorly thought out skill on Shield Mastery. And even if you get the 2, shield absorption and shield reflection, it's not that great, because these, shield reflection and shield absorption triggers when Shield Mastery goes off. And this only happens once every 20 seconds. That is why this skill is so poor in practice. In theory, it's good. In practice, it's bad. Take my word for it. Never put skill points into this, no matter how interesting it looks. Unless you want to spend on respec tokens. And let me remind you, a retrain token is 300 Zen. So it's, 300 Zen's cheap, But if we take a look at the current exchange rate, you want to buy 300 Zen, guess what? You're going to be spending 366 dilithium crystals. So, yeah, Zen to buy. 300 at the current market price of 366. That comes out to 109,800 Zen. That's half of the dilithium I have on this character. Holy snack balls. Yeah. And cheesy snack balls sound good right now, actually. Cheesy poofs. Anyway, that's the reason why I picked most of these skills and not others. Shield regeneration is kind of pointless because the shield regeneration passive shield regeneration happens once every 6 seconds. Your transfer shield strength ability will restore shields faster than this ever will. It's a fact. Same thing with damage control. My power to structural integrity field heals me faster than the passive rate of damage control will. So I don't recommend these 2 skills at all as well. Maybe if you're really interested in them, maybe. But the regeneration rate on the whole is just very low. You know, I mean, in combat, 10% whole regeneration, not that great. Shield hardness is interesting. It's interesting because if you manage to keep your shields up, and there's certain mobs that can take your shields down, like Borg, they trash your shields. Like they have abilities that make you lose your shields very, very quickly. So shield hardness is a useless skill against Borg. If you're ever gonna get this skill, one rank in it. That's it. Just one rank in it. No more. No more. In my opinion. Let's see what other science skills. Control expertise. I would like this skill more, but there's all the skills related to control expertise aren't great because let's just go to Tavrel. What do they mean by control skills? Well, jam targeting sectors is considered a control skill. So for 16 seconds, I could make one enemy not attack me unless I deal 13,392 damage. After that, he attacks me again. So people could look at it and say, oh, it's a free 13,392 damage. Or, that I could deal. And don't get me wrong, jam sensors could be useful only in a one-on-one. Now, do you see the problem here? How many times in this game have I been one-on-one so far? Not a whole lot. A lot of this game, they'll throw waves at you, like small groups of enemies. So, it's not that useful. What are the other things? Tractor beams is considered a control skill because you're holding them in place. Now, the control skill, go back to Zuriz here, control expertise. So disables, holds, repels or pulls, confuse, placates, flight speed debuffs, and turn rate debuffs. Yeah, this is if you really enjoy debuffing in this game, this is the skill for you. Even then, I could say no more than 1 point, but I have no points in it because I don't believe it's a good point to have. Also, you could buy, if you're really interested in testing out if control skills are worth it for you, there's plenty of consoles on the market that are that have control expertise on them that are dirt cheap. And I'm talking Mark 12, very rare control expertise consoles that are going for like 5,000 energy credits. Control expertise is one of the most overlooked or underused skill. And my experience using control abilities, I don't like using them because they don't deal enough damage to replace more useful utility skills that are science-based. That's a fact that I've come to conclude about my playstyle. I'm not saying it's a useless skill, but I just don't think it's good enough to invest any points into ever. That's my personal opinion, but there's pros and cons for it. And now we get to 3 skills at the Admiral that I haven't even talked on. The readiness skills. These 3 skills can be very useful because they reduce the cooldown on your bridge officer abilities for engineering, science, and tactical, respectively. If you're ever going to invest into these, just 1 point. Just 1 point. Well, everybody, that's this episode. So I'll be seeing you on the next run. So take care, everybody, and have fun.